The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Speaking podcast coming to you June 8th, 2023. Obviously, it sounds very down right now because my Miami Heat lost last night, Game 3 at the NBA Finals. Lost in, the score looks a little respectable as it is, but it was not as close as you thought. The Heat lose by game by 11 points. So, yeah, a little down today, but, again, Denver's really good. Another solo pod here today. 3 days in a row podcast. This is great, isn't it? Lots about today on the show. A couple of things I want to talk about on here. So I'm going through the list of things here because I have a long list of things I want to talk about today on the podcast. You guys can see in the show notes. Obviously, the Nuggets take a 2-1 lead. Chris Paul to be waived by the Phoenix Suns, I think. Damien Lillard, Miami Heat. Is that possible? Who knows? We got Dalvin Cook released by the Vikings officially this morning. Stroud came out with his top 5 quarterback list. We'll break that down in a second. Sheik DeGrom out for the year for the Texas Rangers. We also got Mike Pence and Christie has officially entered the presidential race. Why? I don't know. Ron DeSantis poll numbers are not good. The Iron Sheik passed away at age 81 yesterday. And then I'm going to tell you something about medication and pills and why I hate it. Let's get to the game first. Game 3, last night in the books. Nuggets win by 11. Nikola Jokic, first player in NBA Finals history to score a 30-20-10. That's 30 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists. I'll tell you guys, if Jokic is more than one-dimensional, they are unbeatable. Game 2, the Heat won that game. Why? Because while Jokic had 41 points, Jokic had 4 assists. Only 4 assists. Nikola Jokic is one of the best passers, not only in the league right now. You can argue, given his size, especially too, all-time great passer. Last night, 30 points, 30-20-10. He had 33 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists. But also Jamal Murray went off as well too. 34 points, 10 assists. He had triple doubles as well too. Also, folks, this is it may not be the most talented duo in basketball. Because obviously you look at Kevin Durant, you look at Kevin Durant and Booker, you look at obviously right now Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, LeBron and AD when healthy. You have a lot of great talent in the league. But I firmly believe that this tandem is the best tandem in basketball because it's the fit. It's not just the talent, it's the fit. There's no tandem that fits like glue in the same way where it's flawless when at its peak than Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. That 2-man game yesterday killed the Heat. The Heat went off to a nice start in the game last night, and then once Jokic and Murray went to that 2-man game, it was curtains. It was curtains. So to me, they are the best duo in basketball. Not necessarily the most talented, but the most fluid and chemistry-driven duo in basketball. So tough loss for the Heat last night. Game 4 on Friday night, tomorrow night. I'm going to say right now, the Heat, well, first off, the Nuggets played like the more urgent team last night. They played more desperate. That was a close game to the third quarter. Then that early third quarter run that the Nuggets went on just to open the second half, that pretty much killed the Heat. The Heat no answer for that whatsoever. So, that being said, I want to say this. It's going to piss off a lot of Heat fans, like myself, but, I call like I see it. I already told you guys I didn't pick winner of the series because I didn't want to doubt my team. I ain't going to start now. But this is true here. I'm going to say this right now. And you get mad at me all you want. If the Heat lose Game 4 at home, it is curtains on Monday. There's no way in hell to come back with Game 5. And I say that as a fan of this team for 34 years and seeing what this team has done through the playoffs. But if they lose Game 4, it is curtains. This Denver team is on another level right now. This Denver team has been arguably the best team in basketball from start to finish so far. And we're in the finish line now as it is. But this team's been incredible. The Heat will win on Friday. What's curtains on Monday? Seriously, that's simple. So, that's all I got to say about that. By the way, if I get to the next topic here, I just found out how Jokic got the nickname Joker. Former Nugget and former Heat player Mike Miller coined the name Jokic, name for Jokic, because and Jokic gave his approval, of course, because of Miller's issues pronouncing Jokic. He decided to go for a more Americanized nickname, calling him the Joker. Very simple, actually. I thought it had something to do with something else, maybe a fan of Batman. I don't know, but it was because of Mike Miller. You know, Mr. I lost the shoe in Game 5 in the 2012 NBA Finals. Mike Miller, who brought the Heat to the title. Anyway, next topic here. Look like Chris Paul will be waived by the Phoenix Suns at the end of the year. Now, the report got amended after the initial announcement by Chris Haynes on Twitter. The Suns are going to try to trade him or waive him, maybe stretch him, or maybe waive him and sign him. That's a lot of options there, but it looks like Chris Paul's days in Phoenix are pretty much done. Not a surprise, especially to his contract the next 2 years is actually partially guaranteed for each of the next 2 years. So it was a surprise. I know we spoke on this on the podcast a few times over with a couple of guests I've had on here. Also, the report came out yesterday too that about DeAndre Ayton, the Suns are going to try to shop him round two. Almost like I said, the Suns are in a cap hell right now with paying KD, paying Booker, and then now Ayton's contract is pretty big as well too. And so there's not surprises with here. I am curious what they can get for Ayton, because I know Ayton's issues were with Monty Williams, but now he's gone and on Detroit and getting paid $16 million a year in Detroit. But I thought maybe you try to work it out with Ayton, but I guess the Suns are going to try to find more pieces around the two stars. By the way, if I sound like a horse or congested, I am. Allergies this morning. I know allergy attack this morning, so I apologize for how I sound. But I believe the Suns have until June 28th to make the decision official. And we're only a few weeks away from that anyway, so we'll see how that plays out. But it looks like Chris Paul's days there are unnumbered. I will say, he doesn't suck. He's still a decent player. But his role needs to be severely diminished now. Like I was saying on Twitter that Chris Paul needs to embrace the role that, say, Kyle Lowry is doing on Miami, where now he's a backup. I could see him with the Lakers, obviously, given that they are limited in cap right now, and it will cost a lot. But I also think a wild card team I mentioned last night on Twitter as well is the Celtics. They need an actual distributor, and I think there's some value there where Chris Paul could get another, not a huge contract, but a somewhat decent size salary there to fill a need. As good as Marcus Smart has been as a defensive player, he's not the best distributor in basketball there. I think by putting a guy like Chris Paul, obviously when healthy, effective, that's less ball handling for guys like Tatum and Brown, who, while are fantastic players, are also very sloppy in the basketball. And Jaylen Brown is closer to a catch-and-shoot guy as opposed to a shot creator. Having Chris Paul could definitely help him, especially. Of course, so Jaylen Brown stays there long term. So something to look at, something to definitely take in. I think Chris Paul's days in the NBA are still not are actually still there's still value there. I think any team that takes Chris Paul going forward though has to also understand that the injury risks are high. Injury risks are high. Number one. Number two, that you have to. He's got to be a 25 minutes max guy, and I'm talking about max, quite closer to 20, honestly, to be effective, and definitely have a backup point guard behind him if you're going to start him, for example, Chris Paul, to have a lot of minutes for him as well too. So something to look at going forward in the near future. Another point guard also making news in the last 2 days. David Lillard was on a podcast yesterday, and this guy threw up a hypothetical to David Lillard about if he were to actually request a trade and were to have his picking of teams to go to, which teams would it be? And this is what he had to say on that podcast yesterday.
Everybody keeps saying Damian Lillard is going to be traded to the Knicks. Damian Lillard's going to be traded to the Heat. Damian Lillard should be traded to the Celtics. Damian Lillard's going to be traded to the Nets. If one of those trades went through out of those teams, which one would you be like, that's not too bad?
Miami, obviously. Miami is the obvious one. And Bam is my dog. Bam is my dog for real. But I mean, I think Miami the obvious one. Brooklyn is obvious one. Is another obvious one because Mikal Bridges is my dog too. So I mean, and both are capable.
Yeah, Dave Lillard, he. Oh my God, I've been saying already that'd be a good fit. And I've been having conversations with people, friends of mine, and family too about structure for the Heat going forward. And I mean, let's throw a hypothetical out here for the Heat real quick. The Heat, if the Heat were to be in the market for David Lillard, it would go something like this. The only two guys that Heat are untouchable at this point are Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. And people say, why Bam? Because Bam can't be replaced defensively. As much as he frustrates me on offense at times, although he's having a great series against Denver in these finals, what Bam does defensively can't be replaced. He is arguably a top 3 to 5 defensive player in the league right now. Okay, so if you were to trade Bam for Damien, it's actually a wash. And in fact, I would argue it makes the team worse because you really can't make up what Bam does defensively on that team. And you're seeing this in this entire playoff run. Okay, so hypothetically, as my throat's going out. Hypothetically, if you were to do a Bam a trade to Lillard, to say Lillard was going to Miami, how would it look like? I'll tell you right now, it'll look like this. The Heat would have to have Tyler Hero, obviously. Okay, probably Duncan Robinson, who's actually upped his trade assets, his trade value in this playoffs. Probably an expiring Kyle Lowry contract as well, and then maybe a draft pick or two. Portland's going to want assets and draft picks. So you got Tyler Hero as a great young asset. You get draft picks. You get an expiring contract of Kyle Lowry. Duncan Robinson's still a young player, still a great shooter in this league. For Dave Lillard. That's how I would frame a potential Lillard Heat trade if it were to actually go down. Well, we'll see. I expect he's obviously Lillard, he's loyal to Portland. He's been loyal, but he has been talking lately about his desire not to rebuild anymore, and now he's becoming more open about talking about these things, all these hypotheticals. It kind of feels like Lillard is getting closer and closer to say, you know what, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to move on because his team's not going anywhere. And honestly, I think Portland wants to move on too, because as good as Dave Lillard is, he's a top 50 guy in the league still. I do think that the Blazers want to move on and rebuild and go forward. So I think we're getting closer to probably a situation where Lillard decides to, want to get traded or ask to be traded. It's a big contract though, but to me he's still worth it. He's still a great player in this league going forward, right now. All right, let's continue with this. Dalvin Cook, Minnesota Vikings running back, is expected to be released tomorrow. Cook is actually one of the best running backs in the league, in my opinion. Top 5, top 6, what do you call it? I'm surprised on the market, but I guess they don't want to pay him a long-term deal. They can come to a conclusion on a long-term deal. And there's been a lot of rumors about him getting traded for a few months, but no one has bit the bullet yet. With him now, the Vikings are going to try to find a trade partner between now and tomorrow. I doubt at this point, if they couldn't find one before, they're not going to find one now. At this point, so I expect to be released and be on the market. I expect him to be on a team very soon because he's just too damn good. The only problem with Dalvin Cook at this point for me is that he's very injury prone. But outside of that, he is a very quality running back in this league, and he'll find a home in no time. I think I've heard rumblings about Miami and Buffalo being two teams that come to mind, teams that could use a running back. I mean, hell, he comes to Miami here, not here in Miami. Could you argue that the Dolphins would be the favorites in the AFC East at that point now? Because they already are, when healthy, probably one of the probably top. Look, in a world where we believe that Tua could stay healthy, if we could believe Tua could stay healthy, let's just say hypothetically that Tua, in the world that he plays 16, 17 games next year. Okay, why wouldn't the Dolphins be a favorite in the AFC East? They have, in my opinion, when healthy, the best roster in that division, number one. Let's start there. And then you add Dalvin Cook to that roster on top of everything else, with those receivers and, in Hill and Waddle. I mean, come on now. Come on. So I think, if he goes to Miami, that's a big deal. Buffalo needs him too. Buffalo needs a running back as well. I mean, he'd be a great fit in Buffalo. I think if he goes to Buffalo, he'd be a good fit there. I think that makes them a favorite probably. I think any of those teams in the AFC East he goes to will make him the outside favorite in that division, honestly. That's how big a deal he is going to a franchise like that. So, The story to keep a hold on, to keep watching in the next couple days and probably weeks. CJ Stroud, rookie quarterback for the Houston Texans, second overall pick in the draft, ranks his top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Is as follows, 1 through 5. Let's dive into this a little bit here. Number 1, he has Jalen Hurts. 2, Patrick Mahomes. 3, Joe Burrow. 4, Josh Allen. 5, Justin Fields. Okay, obviously, in my opinion, Justin Fields does not belong here in the top 5. I think he'll be really good in the years to come, and I think he needs help, but he's not a top 5 quarterback in the league now. Other than that, I take issue really with the order. Jalen Hurts to me is probably a top 5 guy in the league, maybe 6. I need to see another year if I see another season of what he did last year. This year, he's definitely in top 5, top 4 category in my opinion. Look, any list that doesn't have Patrick Mahomes number 1, you're doing it wrong. I don't care what you say. You're doing it wrong. If Pat Mahomes isn't number 1 on your list, on any list, you're doing it wrong. We're talking about a guy right now that's just entering his prime and has an argument already right now as we sit here June 8th doing this podcast, has an argument to be the greatest quarterback of all time. Here's an argument. I'm not saying he's going to be, he is there, but if you said he's top 5, top 3 all time, it's not silly. He already has the rings to prove it. The ceiling, there's total, I think there's going to be another level for him too, especially too. So any list that doesn't have Pat Mahomes number 1 it's flawed. Number 1. Burrow will be number 2. Obviously, Josh Allen number 3 for me. Jalen Hurts, like I said, I'm not mad. He had been top 5. I have him number 5 if anything. I want to see another year of this, but Justin Fields, look, as solid he is and as upside he has, and he has a bright career ahead of him. He's not a top 5 guy just yet. He's not even top 10 in my opinion. So that's just that on that CJ Stroud. I do think that his point here made was probably mobile quarterbacks. All 5 of these guys are mobile, some degree. So maybe that was the point Stroud was trying to make here. We'll see about that. Anyway, my guy, Jacob DeGrom, new Texas Rangers, recently signed Texas Rangers pitcher, out for the season, Tommy John surgery. I feel bad for this kid. I'm a Met fan. Jacob DeGrom was one of my favorite Met players of all time. But again, this injury, first off, he's going to miss all this year, obviously. Probably all of next year as well, too. So he'll be most likely back for 2025, which by then, he'll be 36 years old. And this is why I was okay with Steve Cohen lowballing him. They offered him a 4-year, 120. I think Texas gave him a 5-year, 160, some to that degree. Definitely substantially more than what the Mets are offering. I hate seeing this. God, I love DeGrom. I'm glad he's secured the bag for his sake. But this could be it for him. If not play baseball, but certainly at least at an elite level. Because Tommy John surgery is a game changer. It really is. And I don't see how, given his age too, also he's getting into the mid-late 30s area by the time he gets back here. I don't see how he could turn it on again. Look, if maybe he finds a new role, maybe he's as a relief pitcher, maybe he's as a closer, maybe, I don't know. But this is a game changer for DeGrom. And it sucks. I hate seeing it because he went for the money, and I get why. He's injury prone. He's one of the best pitchers, if not the greatest pitcher in Mets history. But this is why Steve Cohen didn't offer the money that Texas did, because the risk was too high. And again, he's now gotten the worst case scenario of probably the worst injury you could have as a pitcher, Tommy John surgery. So hate to see it for him, I really do. So blessings and prayers to a DeGrom and a recovery, and hopefully you see him back sooner rather than later. But yeah, it sucks. It really does. Some political talk here. Mike Pence and Christie has officially entered the presidential race, which now brings the total of GOP nominees to 8. I think of Trump, DeSantis, Christie, Pence, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott. And I think the 8th guy is Asa Hutchinson. Wow, I reeled those off. I actually reeled those off in my head. I'm not even Republican. I knew this, but I'm so fascinated by this race. To be honest with you, Look, I don't see a scenario where Donald Trump does not win a nomination. Although there's this another pending indictment on him now. Apparently, it's about to happen in the next couple of days, and that's in the rumors right now. We'll see what happens there. But I will say this though, to the next. Well, real quick, we'll get to that in a second. But in the case of Christie and Pence, well, Christie, I believe, to me is probably of the 8 nominees here, as someone who's an NPA who leans more left on most issues. Okay, I find Christie probably the most likable of the 8 personally. I am not a fan of Trump, obviously. Definitely not a fan of DeSantis, especially in what he's done the last couple months, the last year, with the book banning and the all the other stuff he's doing, the 6-week abortion ban, all that stuff. Obviously I don't like that. I'm definitely not a fan of Mike Pence. I think Mike Pence is too far right for my taste. I find Christie a little more moderate and more reasonable than most Republican candidates. I don't think there's a chance. I don't think either of these guys have a chance, honestly, when the election, win a nomination, rather. To me, it comes down to Don and Ron. It comes down to Trump and DeSantis. But I think Christie is the only one of all these candidates that has the balls to actually take on Trump head on. He's already called him out a couple times, and Trump called him fat and all this other stuff, and which is kind of funny because Trump's not slim himself. So, but in terms of that, I get why Christie's doing it. Obviously, he wasn't Trump at one point. Now he's not anymore. He's been consistent ever since January 6th. Mike Pence, though, why? Like, Mike Pence is not even likable in his own group. I'm actually surprised he's polling higher than as high as he is. I think 5% was the last number I saw on Mike Pence. 5% polling. I don't get that. That to me, I know he has a good stronghold of the evangelical group of votes, but this guy has already said that even after everything happened on January 6th, after everything that happened on January 6th, and him getting threatened to be hung by Trump supporters after the whole thing at the Capitol, he still says to this day that I will still support Trump if he's the nominee. I'm out, dude. Like, I'm out. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's certain things, there's certain parameters I'm willing to cross, and that ain't it. You got a guy that has supporters willing to kill him, and you're still going to support him in the event he's a nominee because you want to own the libs? Is that your priority? Is to own the libs, dude? Better man than me. Look, I'd rather not even vote if that's the case. I'd rather say I'm not going to vote, or I'll vote third party. But to sit there and admit that you're gonna support him if he's a nominee, in spite of everything that's played out in the last couple years, it's ridiculous. To me, it's sad. It's sad because I'm sorry. I have principles, and my principles about my life, my family, far succeed my fucking party. Okay, you're the one that says I'm a Christian first, an American, and a Republican. You say that, but the example says otherwise. Very sad indeed. What's sad also here for Ron DeSantis is, according to online polling, his approval rating has actually dipped since entering the race 2 weeks ago. Here's some numbers here. According to online polling company Civic's dynamic approval rating graph, DeSantis currently has a net approval rating of negative 19 points, with an average of 55% of respondents disapproving of him, compared to 36% who have a favorable view of the Republican. The data shows DeSantis has a major unfavorable rating from those aged 18 to 34, women, which is 60%, women, 62%, as well as African Americans, 85%, and the Hispanic Latino population at 68%. No one's surprised. His leadings in the last couple months, why would you want to vote for him? And again, I go back to the midterms, and where I was wrong of it too also. He's taking positions, though, that are so far right at this point, that even if you're a moderate conservative, how could you even support someone who has these kind of leadings? Banning books, authoritarian behavior, 6-week abortion ban, like I said. the attack on LGBTQ rights, all that stuff. And it's out there. It's not like he's hiding it. It's not like it's a lie. It's out there. He's doing it. And someone like me who's an MPA who would vote a Republican if I found one. I even said in the podcast a week ago, whatever it was, that I found a Republican I would consider voting for, Christian. But of course, he pulled out of the race a couple days ago. He pulled the race. He actually said he's not running this year or this cycle. Again, this is who they are. This is who he is. So these numbers should surprise anybody. And after the midterms last year, where even when I thought inflation would be the number one thing on the ballot, and sure it was definitely an issue for Joe Biden, especially too, that still people in this country still care about women's rights, human rights, gun control, and Republicans didn't get the way they thought they were going to have. And you think Republicans will learn and learn from this behavior and from this information, and I guess they won't do it. I guess they're not going to. And these numbers, I thought if he entered a race, because I know obviously Trump pulled away, at the beginning of the year, even though DeSantis was not in the race yet, and I figured, okay, well that's because, okay, we'll see what happens there once DeSantis enters the race and it changes. And clearly, based on these numbers here, it shows that DeSantis is not doing very well. But I will say this much. The indictment that's supposed to happen any day now, any week now, whatever hell is going to happen, could change things going forward. I don't know. We'll see. If Trump gets indicted again, does that have an effect on the GOP race? Could DeSantis actually, is he waiting for this indictment to happen so then he can, at some point by caucus season, make a case for being the front runner by next year when we get to primary season? That's the question I want to see. But these polls so far, all these polls I'm seeing so far, don't look for DeSantis. Don't look at it at all. So, something to watch. Something to definitely take in. So I'll say about that. All right. Last thing I want to get you out of here. WWE legend Iron Sheik passed away at age 81. The legend, Mr. Camel Clutch. You guys know I'm a big wrestling fan, obviously. I talk about a lot in this podcast too, with friends and myself, of course. I actually wanted to find some funny clips to play on the show, but unfortunately, all the clips I found on there that I wanted to play were very offensive and would not hold up well. Do not hold up well today. He's very abrasive. He's very abrasive, very honest, and very offensive, for that matter. So I'll just say shout out to Iron Sheik and hope he rests well. Truly one of the greats in our wrestling business, of course. I know on my wrestling podcast, Take 3 Wrestling, we're going to do a tribute to him on the show tonight when we record a podcast. But Iron Sheik, age 81. This is weird. He just tweeted like 48 hours ago, and he passed away. No reasons for the passing. No, if he was sick or I don't know. But yeah, truly a great legend. Truly a fantastic Twitter follow. If you're offended by things, obviously you would like him, but I have tough skin, so whatever. So anyway, that will do it for this podcast, dated June 8, 2023. My allergies are going through the roof again, so I feel congested, so I'm making edit this show while I can. I'm on Twitter at EJ Christian 7, Earnestly Podcast, or across all podcast catchers. Also, guys, don't forget, the basketball, my new podcast, I just announced just on the last episode, the basketball retrospective is now out. We are putting together episodes now. I put up the trailer for the episode for the show 2 days ago. So the podcast feed is now live. Check it out, of course, a podcast catcher. Also, the other my wrestling podcast is out also too as well. We're going to start doing shows on that as well in the near future. So let me get out of here. My nose is really congested. We'll talk to you guys later. God bless y'all and. Thank you.